and wanted to share. How long has Western Forms been around for?
Since 1955.
Since 1955. That's even longer than I've been around, thankfully. So, over to you.
Okay, thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully everyone's energetic here, and usually after lunch people start getting a little sleepy. I see a couple, maybe get some coffee going here. But anyway, we're really glad to be here today to present kind of what we're doing, kind of a unique technology and a new solution we're trying to bring to the African market. But you're going to hear over and over, our whole effort in Africa is focused on partnerships, relationships, and including the finance world. So I want you to please pay close attention, because it's not all educational. It's a call for all of you to work together to solve these solutions together. Okay, so look forward to, I've chatted with, we already had a lot of good meetings, and I look forward to some more after this. So let's see if this is working.
There you go.
Okay, so we're Western Forms. We're based in the middle of the U.S. This is myself, Joe Chapman. I'm based close to our headquarters in the middle of the U.S. We're in Kansas City, Missouri. I've had my whole career in international business development and economic development. For about 5 years prior to joining Western Forms about a year ago, I was focused on developing agricultural projects in Africa, and some things we learned on how to get those done I think we can transfer over to the building sector. And we also have Mike Townsend here. He's at Western Forms, based in Uganda. He's going to cover a couple points today on the technology we're bringing into the market. The Western Forms, as I mentioned, CAHF, we've been around since 1955. We started exporting in 1974. We're exporting all over the globe, although not so much in Africa yet, and that we're trying to change that. Been around for 65 years. As I mentioned, we're exporting. We export to over 40 countries a year. We're in around 60 to 70 markets consistently through year to year. So we have a lot of international experience, but the way we're doing business in other countries has not worked out in Africa. And we're going to explain why, and why we think we can come in with a different model, working a lot with groups like you to be more successful. So as you can see here, a map. We're in the Western Hemisphere primarily, but we cover all those countries very, very consistently. But we go into the markets with the technology we're going to showcase today. And for affordable housing in most of these markets, around 90%, 90% are done with our technologies and our building systems in those markets, because we feel it's proven itself to be a faster, cheaper, very sturdy method of building, and we're going to showcase that here today. So we really want to take all that experience, come into the African markets, and do the same thing. In those markets where we're at in the Western Hemisphere, we estimate over 500,000 units a year are being built with our building system. 500,000 per year. So as you can imagine, over years and decades, it's millions and millions and millions of people we're affecting to get poor, lower income families to move into more affordable housing. Okay, so that's what we're looking to do with partners like all of you to bring that type of success to the continent. So we feel, on one hand, to make a large impact, you kind of need an industrial process to bring in large-scale technologies to get things massively done. Okay, and so we're one way, and we're going to explain what we do. We do hand-set aluminum forms. We'll go over that technology. We put up the forms and pour in the concrete, and it dries overnight, and you're done. You have a shell of a house or one floor of an apartment done in one day. On to the next. Okay, but there's tunnel forms. The Turkish companies use that a lot. They'll bring in the blocks and do the form pouring. There's precast. Of course, you need cranes, etc. So we feel on a mass scale, you need to bring in these technologies and do things on a kind of a mass scale. But I had some good conversations with our previous speaker, Mauringa, and another presenter coming up later, Wolf. That even though these are some good answers, we need as much as we can throw at this problem, right? We need the green renewables. We need, the larger scale ones. We need to throw everything we can at to solve it, So that's we're glad to hear these other systems that are coming into the market. So what Mike's going to talk about here in a minute is just the difference that we bring. You know, if you look at the traditional column and beam with brick infill, it can take months and months and months. And then you have to, you know, a lot of stuff to smooth out and retweak the windows, etc. What you'll see from our systems is you pour in the concrete, dries overnight, you're on to the next. It is exact every single time. And it's smooth surface, very sturdy, and you can do one per day. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. And then in Africa, though, we've been able to, in the other countries that we're in, to just sell the technology because construction companies are used to it, right? The developers are used to it. There's a whole infrastructure set up for that. So for 15 years, we've been trying to sell into Africa, and we've been not successful. And we think that we can bring in a holistic model with partnerships to change that. So before I get to that holistic model and how we're doing things different in Africa, Mike's going to cover our technology a little bit here.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everybody. So as Joe said, my name is Mike Townsend. I've been living in Kampala, Uganda for the past year, working with Western Forms. Prior to Uganda, I did spend 10 years working with Habitat for Humanity International and other international development programs, and 10 years at university and as a professor. So I'm going to talk about our technology. So I believe many of us here are familiar with a traditional building technology, column and beam with brick infill. This technology is wonderful because it's universal, well-known, low-skilled labor. The other benefit of it is if you don't have much money, you can buy a brick a day and build your house. But if you continue with that method, by the time you reach musée level, you may finish buying all your bricks. So we think that we want to push beyond this and get into industrialized construction. So here's some pictures of some of our projects around the world. And so I want to spend a moment talking about the process of our technology, because we get a lot of questions about how do you do it. And I'm going to talk about the technology itself, how it works. One of the most important things that we hope you walk away with today is that our technology provides some of the highest quality structures at the lowest cost while using local unskilled labor. Not imported labor, local unskilled labor. So here's our process. A lot of the process will seem familiar because it's close to column beam construction. So step one, we start with a slab foundation. You will notice there is some rebar sticking up out of the slab. That's so that the wall mesh, the steel mesh reinforcement can be attached to the foundation. And then step two is putting the steel mesh, that's the concrete reinforcement. It's important also to know that we design the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing into the wall systems. This means there's conduit inside the walls for all those systems. So after the mechanical, electrical, or the steel reinforcement is placed, then workers can begin installing the aluminum forms. So in this picture here, you can see that they've started with a corner that makes it easy to attach the corner pieces together and work down the wall. One important thing to note here is, as Joe said, a lot of other industrialized systems require cranes and heavy equipment. Our aluminum forms only weigh about 20 kilos, so one worker can pick up and move these systems. It's also important to note that we have built-in technology where these panels lock together very tight. We also have technology built in to keep the thickness of the wall consistent throughout, so it provides a very high quality result. And I'll show you pictures in a moment of the finished product. After the forms are set, you pour the concrete. You fill the walls first, and then you pour the deck or roof above. I loved a wonderful explanation recently from Ms. Fatma. She said it's like baking a cake. You fill the pan and let it cure, and then you remove the pan the next day. So here in step 5, the forms are removed. I know you can't see the picture very well, but the walls come out very smooth. And then in step 6, it requires very little work to finish it. It's just sanding and painting. As Joe said a moment ago, our forms have the windows and doors designed into the system. So that means all of it is cast the same size. So if you're building 1,000 units and you need 1,000 doors, you can order 1,000 doors before you start because it's going to be the same exact dimension every single time you build the house or build the unit. So now that we've covered the process so that you can see a little bit about how it works, let's talk more about the technology. So if you can see in the picture here, on the left side of the wall construction, there's two sets of forms. There's one set on the outside, one set on the inside, and then you have a set that's on the deck or floor above. We design these laser cut with precision. They fit together like a puzzle piece or Lego pieces, and there's only one way to put them together, so we hope your workers won't mix the pieces up too much. But then once you put the pieces together and you pour the concrete, this creates what's called a monolithic pour. The concrete for the walls and the concrete for the deck above are one continuous system. This monolithic pour creates a superior quality of the structural integrity. So our structures are natural disaster proof. They're earthquake proof and they're cyclone proof. We have a lot of projects all throughout Central America that are earthquake proof. Our first project actually was to rebuild after an earthquake, and we have a lot of projects out throughout the Caribbean that are cyclone proof. So here's a picture of one of our projects. This is a low-rise apartment complex. Once we design a set of forms for a project, we design an entire level. So that means we design the entire the ground floor forms for this project. And the way our system works is that the workers can install the forms in the morning, you can pour the concrete in the afternoon, and by the next day, you're removing the forms and going to the next level. This project, the shell, was completed in 5 days. Here's some pictures of our project, one of our projects in Jamaica. So again, if you have one set of forms, you can pour the shell of one house per day, and this project included 3,000 units. So if you're doing single structures like this, if you have 5 of the shells, you can make 5 houses a day. So this project here is another project from Mexico. It includes 9 units, 9 two-story units. And if you look closely, I know the picture is kind of set far back. There's 2 sets of forms. The first level has one set, the second level has another set. The crew, one crew is working down the line, building the first level, and as that crew moves, the second crew comes in with the top level and builds it on down the line. This is the industrialized process. These 9 units were, the construction started and move-in ready, keys in 30 days. So once developers and construction companies become familiar with our technology, buildings can be move-in ready in 30 days from the start of construction. So I've talked about our process, I've talked about our technology. One of the things that helps us reach that 30-day mark is we do a lot of pre-planning before the construction begins. So we work with architects and designers to make our forms work with your designs that you've already created. And then once we create the form system, then we install, we create the engineering for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And then our forms are laser cut to precision, so there's no errors with the forms. After we build the forms, then in the bottom left you can see a picture of where we're testing the forms. So we set all the forms up in our warehouse and make sure everything works together. And during this part of the process, if you wish to come and visit our company in Kansas City, we would like to invite people to come and look at the forms while we've test fit them. After we're sure that they fit, then we ship them We bring a training team on site to train your team for 2 weeks on how to use the system. We make sure the forms work. We perform a quality control assessment. And then once those 2 weeks are finished, we leave and you're left with the forms and doing a level a day. This is just a quick picture again of a project we completed in Mexico. This is 20,000 units that we completed with our forms. So now we've gone over the process and the technology and how fast it is. I want to give a very quick case study. This project is from Dominican Republic. This is an apartment block. It's 4 levels with 8 units. And so we want to go over the construction timeline and the costs. So when building an apartment or any structure, one of the costs that everybody incurs is obviously the purchase of land, purchase of titling, clearing the land. We didn't want to give that cost in our case study here because that varies too much. But once the construction process begins, the cost of construction for 1 unit was, so the slab cost was $3,300. Once you get to the shell construction, 1 unit costs $7,600 for the shell cost. And then the finishing cost for 1 unit cost almost $16,000. And then the most important number we want to show you is the total construction cost. So that doesn't include the land purchase and clearing. The total construction cost was just under $27,000. And these units sold for $67,000. So what we want to highlight with this is that profit margin that you have here. We can build in a lot of these sustainable and green initiatives into our systems because we save so much money in the construction process. So I'm going to turn it back over to Joe, who can bring us the money.
Thanks, Mike. So I should mention, I don't know if it was emphasized, but our forms, the aluminum forms we use, once you take them off, you just spray them down, clean them. They can be used for up to 10,000 pours, okay? So our product works very well at scale because the initial capital investment on the forms is there, but if you can spread that capital cost out through 10,000 pours, it just makes a lot of sense. So what I mentioned a little bit earlier was we're trying to come into Africa with an integrated model, okay? We don't think we can just do this alone. We've tried for 15 years to get in this market, these markets in Africa, okay? So what we need are partners such as yourselves. And it's everything on financing. I'll go over that in a little bit, from the banks, export credit agencies, development banks, et cetera, all the way down to city planning, architecture, engineering, design, cement pumps, batch plants. We want to bring an integrated approach to come into these larger projects we're trying to do here to solve the solutions. So getting the integrated model, I mentioned it a bit ago, this was kind of developed at my prior company. I worked on developing agricultural projects, and it was somewhat similar. We had our key client was a specialized irrigation company that would go into larger farms and use their irrigation systems, but the farms needed to be very large. Everything needed to be designed around those. So they had a difficult time selling into African markets. And why was that? Well, you can't just come to a small farm, throw in specialized irrigation, and just have it magically become a large farm that's working. You need the farm design, the business plan development, you need the crop rotation, design the whole farm based on a large scale farm. And that's going to increase the size. So you need larger tractors, okay, for the horsepower to pull. What are you going to do with this extra volume you have? You need grain storage systems, etc. Hopefully you're doing some value added. You know, I always look at things from an economic development point of view, okay? So, okay, it's great you're doing some agricultural projects, but why not, increased ag products? Well, why not do a value processing next to that, processing plant, etc., etc. So we're always looking kind of at the economic development as well. So some of our partners, I'll mention, we've got a good partner. We're developing more and more in continent and outside. We have a partner called UP Constellation, They're an award-winning company based in our neighboring state in Colorado, but they have a focus on Africa. Their CEOs lived here and done projects all over the continent for decades. They're the company that designed the Kansas City in Kenya, and they designed an award-winning suburb of Kigali. So what we're looking to do is partner with these groups that have experience in Africa, wherever that in the world, hopefully a lot of local. We want to encourage economic development and use local partners, but we want to bring in all components needed to design to make these projects successful. Then we're also trying to bring in the equipment that we need, batch plants, cement pumps, etc. So the equipment, let's all bring that in, okay? And then especially related to what you guys are talking about a lot at this conference, we want to bring in new technologies to the industry. We're working with a company in the same city we're headquartered called SPI Coatings. It was mentioned in a previous conversation. They have a good fiber spray system. You spray it on, it stops 96% of the heat transfer into the building. We were also working with a company, Thermomass. They're able to sandwich our concrete that we're pouring in with insulation in the middle. So we want to keep searching around the globe to find new technologies, and including what's in Africa, and bring those solutions to the market. On the finance side, it's an integrated model that we need. If you're going to do these projects at a large scale, you need the project finance, and there's various stacks you can use. We heard that earlier from an earlier conversation. You got to look at your stack. We try to utilize XM financing where we can to bring in. Let's go just a minute here. We try to use XM financing or ECA financing if it's from different countries. We want to, with lower interest rates, and you're able to use 50% of that value to bring into lower, local construction costs. But then in the whole financial stack, it can be private banks, it can be diaspora financing, tenant prepay, development banks. So each project's going to require a unique solution, and that's kind of my call to all of you out there. Is as on the finance side, we want to bring solutions to the projects we're working on. But on the other side too, is we want you to feel comfortable with our systems and technology, that where you have key clients, you can bring us in to introduce to them. So are we running out here? Okay, so just real quick, our whole effort is based on partnerships. We want local expertise along with the foreign groups that we're working with. We have here today Fatma Moma from Mega Housing. We have our local, Fatma's located here, and we're doing some projects locally. And we also have Wasim Khan. He's based in our headquarters, but from Kenya. He goes back and forth. The last thing I'll say is we have some good solutions. We're working with many companies around the world, but it's African problems and these are some African solutions, and we need to partner together to bring in this holistic model to make these projects successful.
Something really fast, Joe? Just really fast, sorry.
Really fast.
Real fast. Africa, good morning. We wake up first. I don't need the mic. I'm loud enough. We wake up first. We make all the mistakes. Europe wakes up, fixes all the mistakes. America wakes up last. We perfect it, and then we present it to the world. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.